On this week's Rugby League Down South, the South West London Chargers heading into the national final of the Amateur Conference Division. HEMEL coach Troy Perkins on their playoff eliminator win, and a knockout game with Skolars on the cards now. We've got the Leeds forward JAMIE PEACOCK on bringing his summer camp to the Skolars again next season, and PAUL THORMAN on his time at the Skolars in North London as he leaves for pastures new. One of the recent Broncos success stories as well in ILLIES MACANI, and the PE teacher at RGS High Wycombe about coaching his Year 7 side to victory at Wembley. And also, I'll tell you what I know and what I think, again, about the Broncos in 2014. A few small new details for you. If you want to email any point during the week in response to the programme, rldownsouth@gmail.com is the email address, rldownsouth@gmail.com. You can contact me on Twitter at Ian Ramsdale, or use the hashtag RLDS for Rugby League Down South. I had a tweet from Chris at Ian Ramsdale saying, is there any point in any Broncos articles in Rugby League Down South if the club are being so uncommunicative? Keep it up, though, says Chris. Well, this is a very fair question, what I said to him. At the moment, details from the club are few and far between, put it that way. But I have learnt a few more things, which I'll tell you in a second. But we're going to start in a lower league. And the South West London Chargers face the Gateshead Storm in the final of the Harry Jepson Trophy this weekend. It's the national final for the Open Age, the Tier 4, as they call it, competition. And the Open Age game, the community level. Now, in the last 12 of 16 years, it's been won by non-Heartland clubs, which possibly shows the strength of the game at that level. Cameron Paul is the chairman of the Chargers. I spoke to him earlier on as the club, I spoke to him earlier in the year, didn't I? As the club were being set up, and their aim was to make it through to this Harry Jepson Trophy final.
At the start of the year, it all started with 10 guys sitting around a table in January, and we were just hoping that people would turn up come March and April when the season started. And during the season, we've had upwards of 50 plus players play for us, and as it turned out, we've won the London Cup, won the London Premier Division, the minor premiers in the entry league, and we're in two teams pretty much every week for the whole season, and now are fortunate enough to make it to the Harry Jepson Trophy final, which is a prestigious and a honour for us to be in.
I was going to say, it's not a bad year for you, hasn't it? Is it really, in the first year of a club? Just to sort of rejig people's memories, if they have listened to earlier podcasts this year, we caught up with you and you told us about the amalgamation between South London Storm and the West London Sharks, and how the clubs weren't really finding their way. You've all come together to become the South West London Chargers. It's great to see you doing so well, and you mentioned the prestigious Harry Jepson Trophy. It is a trophy that we like to win in London, and we like to have here, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely is. I know I was a part of it, involved in South London Storm in 2006 when we won it, and then West Sharks won it in 2009. St Albans have won it, I think, 07, and then again in 2010, and Skolars, I think, are the current holders as well in their second team, the A team. So it's and it also goes back to I think the first ever winner was what was then called North London Skolars.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
Obviously London Skolars. So, and then there was Crawley and stuff like that. It's very much a very honourable thing for any team to win, especially when it covers the whole of England this year, but in past years Wales and Scotland as well. And and I know for us winning it in 2006 and the West guys winning it in 2009, it just cements what a great year you've had, sort of thing. You've come off the back of winning your own comp, and then you go in to play the winners of other comps, and the momentum keeps going, and hopefully we can keep it going for this Sunday.
This is the conference level. You've been playing in, I think, I'm right in saying that's the Conference Premier? Is that Conference Premier South?
Southern Premier, yeah.
Southern Premier.
It used to be the conference level was, I think it all changed in 2012. Yeah, last year it all changed. So up until 2011 it was the conference, but now they're just regional leagues, technically a Tier 4. So we're Tier 4 clubs, which is the community clubs. So we're in the Southern Premier competition, which pretty much encapsulates London, and it goes out to Colchester.
Yeah.
and that's the area for us that we're taking on, and we're taking on Gateshead School, who are the winners of the North East competition.
So basically it's been whittled down, hasn't it, from the champions of each regional division have then gone into quarterfinals, semi-finals. So you won your quarter, you then won the semi against Devon, and now it's the national final. Basically it's the two remaining regional sides left, you against Gateshead. How good are they? It's a competition where I guess you've not bumped into them before, you don't really know the results, you're going in against what the league structure says is your equivalent league elsewhere. How confident are you that you can bring back Harry, as you've called it on Twitter?
Yeah, bring back Harry, yeah. Well, we're not going to go into any game lightly. I mean, as you say, we don't really know much about them. All we know is that they've won their cups, they've won their league, and I believe they're undefeated for the whole season. So they've had a pretty easy path through the quarters and the semi-finals. I think they got a bye and then had a good win last weekend. So we're definitely not taking it lightly. I believe it's going to be a tough contest, but hopefully we can get over them on Sunday. But it definitely won't be an easy game, I don't think.
Well, good luck with it. Hope it all goes well. Just one final question, I guess. People talk about the structure in London and the South and how crucial it is. People have told me this year, that if Broncos weren't to exist or were to go in the championship, that the community level would carry on because the interest is there. It's not really dependent on any particular Super League side or any particular top level side, which I guess is good to see. But how important do you think a club like yours is, and the success of a club like yours is, to the development of that top level? Because hopefully Broncos will be able to sort themselves out and will be in Super League. How competitive they'll be remains to be seen. But you have produced at South London Storm and at West London Sharks players who have gone on and still do represent London Broncos right now. So how important do you think you are to them?
Well, I think the senior leagues in London are very important. Obviously, the development that the guys are doing in the junior clubs is where all the emphasis comes from for those players, and it's a must that must continue, because all those players have come through all the various junior clubs, be it at South and West or the new ones that are currently run. At Chargers, we don't have a junior system at this stage of our after being only going 1 year. But I think having clubs like ours, at least, our whole emphasis with being a central location, so that London's a big place now. People work and live in different places, and I think at junior level, it's right to have all the community clubs all scattered around London in local little pockets all the way around. And I think they're going to be turning to senior players, and they need these strong sort of clubs around London as we are. I don't think we're going to have a situation where we're going to have 15 or 20 teams of a good quality in the next 5 or 10 years in London, but we'll definitely have 6 to 10 teams of great standard. So at the moment you've got 20 junior clubs, and they'll feed into the 10 senior clubs. So I think it's very important that we keep the level of the senior clubs together and have that push. And a lot of our players are Australian or ex-Northern players, but we do have some London players as well. And without the club, those 5 or 6 guys that are local London juniors won't be able to have a game with us. So we definitely need to have the club continue so that those juniors have a place to go.
I don't think I'd be out of place as well to say that over the years there has been a bit of, not animosity, but the two structures, professional and the top level senior game that you play in, are completely separate, really, and there has been real no synergy between the two, and it hasn't really been needed. But whatever form the Broncos work themselves out into in the future, let's say Barnet, for example, would you like to see them reach out to teams like you? And if so, how? Or are you happy just to carry on?
I think, I think there could be some links between the clubs and the competition, maybe at the competition level rather than the club level. I don't think they need to do much to be involved, but it would be good if we could sort of maybe have some games at their ground or something, as some finals or something like that, or the occasional player coming to a training session or something. But I don't think there needs to be a huge involvement of the Broncos in individual clubs in London, but it would be nice if they could help out, well, not help out, but be involved in some way in the competitions that exist in the London area.
And what about your future? It's been 1 year. It's been a successful year. It was all sort of not thrown together. That makes it sound bad, but this was a situation that arose out of a couple of other not too flourishing situations. Is there plans for next year to move the club forward, to move onwards? You talked you don't have juniors. Is that sort of topic rearing its head?
I mean, we couldn't have, obviously we wished that this would happen, that we'd be in the position we are now at the start of the year, but honestly we didn't dream that we'd be in this position. I think we're just fortunate that we are, and we've had such a successful year. I think it's time for us to just, take a few things about what's happened and then come back next year and hopefully just defend the titles that we've won. And then, I don't think we need to rush ahead and go, next year we're going to do this and that. I think the plan is to make a solid team, the team that's going to be around for a long time, rather than try and overstretch ourselves and get to situations where, we can't fulfill fixtures and we don't have teams and players again. But, one day, it'd be great if we could have an academy team or an under-18s team in the competition that would feed into us. We've had, had a core group of 40 or 50 guys, and I think we've had up to 80 guys that have either come to training or have actually played for us, some of those being under-18s from various clubs around London as well. So maybe that's something to think about in the future, but next year I think our plan is just to fortify what we've done this year and hopefully emulate our success again next year.
I've got to say, I find that a very sensible approach from the South West London Chargers. Don't get carried away. They've had a good season. Of course they have. They want to do the same again next year. And if the club develops along the lines of they want to start introducing extra teams, an academy, the youngsters, then they can. Why not just rely on the closer other junior clubs, who have those junior teams, who have the capacity to run those junior teams, to eventually provide them with the players of the future when they get to that open age group. I think it's sensible. Some teams, quite often when they've been set up, try to do too much. You need to operate within your means at any level, wherever you are. And if the means of the South West London Chargers at the moment is just to operate that one team, an extra squad, playing games in that division, entering the competitions they do, it's great to see. They should carry on, and fingers crossed they can be successful as well. Good luck to them in the final of the Harry Jepson Trophy against the Gateshead Storm. Now on to what I know and what I think. Part 2 of the London Broncos for 2014. You may have read the story on the BBC Sport website last week about the club making redundancies and giving people notice this week. A few people have left the club this week. It's all part of cost saving, which, as far as I understand and as far as they say, it's all to do with guaranteeing the future of the club. From what I understand, a deal is very close. A deal is on the cards, nearly done. There are certain things that need to be finished. There are certain business things which, to be fair, go above my head in terms of what needs to be done when a business is not changing hands, but when there's extra investment, which is what I understand will happen with the Broncos. So in terms from the business side of things have to be changed or made simpler. I think is probably the best way I can explain of how I understand the situation to be. Now, it doesn't have to be like that, but that's the way that obviously the parties involved want it to be. And so all this cost saving has to be done. A figure of 120k was mentioned to me at some point. I think that's a year-on-year saving that they're looking to make, and that's something that has to be cut in order for a possible deal to go through. You may have seen Tony Ray's comment on the BBC Sport website as well after the game, the victory at Hull KR, which means that Broncos don't finish on the foot of the table, and of course keep up the record of never having finished there. But Tony's saying that they do expect to be in Super League next year, and he is expecting that to happen. And as far as I'm aware, that is the plan. As I mentioned in the last time that I did a what I know and what I think. Why would you plan not to be in Super League? That, of course, is the plan. And I think it's right to say that the asset of being in Super League is probably the most prized asset of all. So why would they want to drop that. I can probably promise you that is absolutely not the case. Super League is what they're aiming for, and this thing needs to be done. In terms of the deal, I don't know too much about it. Everyone mentions Barnet. I'm pretty sure it is Barnet. No official confirmation. Can't get official confirmation, but it looks like, and they're trying to sort out a deal to move to what's called the Hive, Barnet's training ground, which is in Edgware in northwest London. The deal is progressing well. This is why the redundancies have been made. In order for all this to happen. And I think if you get to the stage where you're cost-cutting and losing members of staff, then you are at a stage where it's getting to the business end, if I can use that terminology. There are certain things which still need to be ironed out, as far as I'm aware. There are certain things that aren't yet sorted. There are certain things that do have a semi-question mark over them. But at the moment, I don't think that any of them have returned a negative. If a certain part of the deal was to return a negative, that is an interesting situation and question to pose. It would put the club in a very difficult situation in terms of having to move forward. Would they be able to? Is a very, very good question. But as I say, the elements of the deal that they're looking to do, as far as what I've been told, at the moment, are all positive. They're not yet done. They are certainly, I wouldn't say a long way from being done, but there are certain few things that still have to be agreed, a few certain important things that have to be agreed. And it brings on to the question of, well, what will be left? What would the Broncos become? There are a number of players that have left. There are players that are signed for new clubs, even though still potentially under contract. I haven't had a conversation with Tony Ray yet. My understanding is that there are no concerns about the playing squad that they would be able to assemble for next year if the deal was to go through. Maybe there's an element of they aren't too concerned about that at the moment, because until you have a club, there is no real concern to recruit. And there's potential that the movement of players who've been under contract is something to do with the cost saving as well. But whatever happens and whatever form the Broncos, if that's the name that they decide to keep, are in 2014, will look significantly different. The structure of the club will be different. It will be almost a fresh start, from what I'm being told. It will be a brand new start, and as far as we're aware, it looks like the deal will try and be done in Barnet. As I said, if any of the elements of the deal turn out to be negative, no-goes, then that is an interesting question. It would put the potential deal on the line, in question, without doubt. But at the moment, things are progressing, and everyone always asks, when's it going to happen? How long will it be? It's difficult to say. I think anything could happen any time. Could be a week. I think that they're going to have to get things sorted fairly soon, but some of these things I'm pretty sure won't be rushed through. So you could say in the next week or 2 weeks, you'd hope, but who knows? We've been told a couple of weeks, haven't we, for a number of months now, and still nothing yet. But that's pretty much what I know and what I think part 2 of the London Broncos for 2014. So let's now move into Championship 1. Oxford and HEMEL both qualifying for the playoffs in their debut season. HEMEL won the elimination game between both of the two clubs to progress through to face the Skolars, who we heard from last week, in another elimination game. Rochdale beat the Skolars and will now play Oldham for a place in the final, the two northern clubs for a place in the final. So how are HEMEL feeling then? Playoffs was the target at the start of the season when I talked to Troy Perkins, and well, they got there, didn't they?
Yeah, we're all ecstatic that we did as well as we did. That was was a pretty ambitious goal. We had to set our standards high, and to actually achieve that was is a credit to everyone involved at the club, whether it be the players, the support staff, the medical staff, and the coaches that we got on board. It's been a real team effort.
I know this isn't necessarily your field, but every team sets out, with a certain budget and a way of playing. And, you said the aim was the playoffs. Some teams sometimes say that they're short of money because they're paying out too many win bonuses. Did you budget to win as many games as you did?
We budgeted to win. We budgeted to win half our games, so it was again an ambitious budget. We thought, we'd rather sort of, have a bigger budget than come up short. So we did budget to win plenty of to win plenty of games. So it was all in the budget. But I think the chairman took a bit of a hit early on when we won, I think, 4 games in the first month.
Yeah.
So there's a big concern there. But we knew it would pan out, and there'd be a couple of months where we didn't win that many games. So I think we work on probably one of the smallest budgets in the league. We've been pretty conservative with our match games. The club's doing all right without we haven't sent the club broke, if you like.
Tell me if I'm talking out of turn here, but would I be right in saying that potentially when people looked at the squads, people might not have thought that HEMEL would have done as well as they did compared to others? Yet there's something about your team that has just made them function this year.
To be fair, anyone that didn't know, apart from HEMEL fans, I don't think there was any other rugby league fans that wouldn't know much about the squad, and they were probably entitled to write us off. We were a bunch of no disrespect to my players, but a bunch of no-names really. But the team that played against Oxford on the week, I think 7 of them played in our grand final winning team last year, so we've got a bit of a bond already. And then, in theory, we've brought in players that either couldn't get a game at some of the other championship one clubs, or just never really had the championship one for various reasons. But I don't think I think anyone that wrote us off was probably able to do so when they looked at the squad, and we've just worked really well as a team, and as I said before, we've worked really hard in pre-season, and we've gelled really well. And what I always knew about the squad is that we were the forwards are tough lads, and that goes a long way when they when the chips are down, and these players I knew would put their hand up and do the tough stuff and not give in, and that's how it's been all season. I mean, we've won half our games, but the games we've lost 1 game by 1 point, 2 games by 2 points, and I think 2 games by 8 points. So nearly every game we've been right in the mix. There's only probably 1 or 2 games where the game got away from us late in the game, but the boys try really hard, and what we might lack in a little bit of ability, we make up for in other areas.
My spies who were at the game at the weekend tell me it was a cracking game against Oxford, and this sets up another, I dare use a cliche, but a mouth-watering derby against the Skolars. You couldn't write a better script, really. We're up against the Skolars and Rochdale Oldham up there in another derby, so it's panned out really well for the rugby league and the rugby league community, RFL. But I was pretty disappointed in our performance against Oxford. Obviously, winning the game was a great achievement, but we were a bit disappointing in a few areas. We started pretty slow, and then we showed character to hit the front. Then we were behind again, then we hit the front, and then we just held on at the end. A prime example, their winger fielded a kick and took off down the sideline and run 80 metres, and our loose forward, Jack Malloy, caught him 5 metres from the line. It wasn't entitled to get there, and just showed, some speed from somewhere to catch him. And if he scores a try and goes near the post, they win the game. They convert and win the game. So it was a funny game. It was good for the crowd, and there's plenty of highs and lows. But we're limping into the playoffs, and we've been hit pretty hard with injuries. But what it has, it's given some of the other guys an opportunity, and some of the young lads that haven't been playing much this season, they've had to step up to the mark, and up until now they've done a decent job for us. And it didn't take long to establish a real rivalry between HEMEL and Skolars. You've had some cracking games this year. I know that some of the scorelines have maybe been skewed by absence of players either way, But how do you think your squad and their squad compare going into this fixture where, to be fair, whoever's available, whoever the best players are going to want to be out on the field?
Again, on paper they've got an established team. They've all obviously played a lot of Championship 1, and there's players like Warinski and Gareth Rayner who've played Super League and played plenty of it. Again, going back to what we spoke about earlier, we're a sort of a no-name team that are just going in to do our best. As I said, we've been hit really hard with injuries. I think I've got eight players that will be in my first choice 17 on the sidelines at the minute. Jermaine Coleman done his cruciate ligaments in the team run through against Gateshead. Chad Sharp, who's been an influential standoff for us this season, he done his shoulder about a month ago. He won't be right for the weekend. Mason Caton-Brown, who's been with us all year, got called up to Broncos 2 weeks ago, went really well, played last weekend, and he's unavailable this weekend. So we haven't had him for a couple of weeks, although we had him for most of the season. So there's those players that have had a big effect on how well we've gone. And then there's a couple of others that we've lost this week as well. So, as I said, we're down to our bare bones, really. But, we'll battle hard, and there's a lot of character in the team. So we just have to, play to our strengths and see what happens on the day.
You may well brush this question off, and people often say, I'm just looking ahead to the next game, and, we're just going to concentrate on what's in front of us. But, I mean, could you do it? Could you go on and win that spot, get to the grand final, and beat either Rochdale or Oldham, whoever it was that was there?
I'd be a lot more confident if we're at full strength. I'll say that. But as I said, we've got two 19-year-olds in the halves that have played the last few weeks, which they've only played 1 or 2 years of rugby league, so we've got a little bit of inexperience there. And as I said, we're missing a couple of influential players, so it's going to be a lot tougher than it would have been if we're all fit. But saying that, we dug deep against Foxford, and there's no reason why we can't perform well against Skolars. And if we look after the ball and all that kind of stuff, we're 2 wins from the grand final. And anything can happen on any day. And as I said, the players that we've got are obviously want that opportunity to play well, and whether it's to get a contract for next year, or whether it's just to contribute to the team's success. So there's players all playing for plenty of good reasons. So there's no reason why we can't progress. But obviously, as I said, it's going to be really tough. With this week, even if we get through the Skolars match, then we're heading up north to a Rochdale or Oldham, which away from home is going to be very, very difficult as well. But I think what we've done this season's been amazing, and anything else is a bonus. But we're going in reasonably confident with the squad we got, and having beaten Skolars earlier in the season, and we were. We weren't at full strength when we played them a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully, being beaten pretty convincingly, that has spurred a few boys on, and it's sudden death, and anything can happen, really.
And I remember being at the club just before the start of the season, looking ahead to it, wondering really what was going to happen and how it was all going to pan out. It was new to everyone there. You look back on it now, and what about next year and how the club are building? Have you progressed? Have you moved? Has it been a good experience? Are you in a position now where you think, when that January, February comes around next year, you're not going to be sitting there thinking, how is it going to be? You know exactly how it's going to be, and you know how you're going to attack it. We're planning for next season already, but probably the biggest problem we've got at the minute is that we're losing a few players, and it's probably down to the commitment that's involved in playing semi-professional rugby league in London. We've got players travelling 1-2 hours to training every day, and it's just really difficult. So that's probably the biggest thing, is holding on to all the players that we've got. I'm not worried about them going anywhere to any other team, losing to another club, but it's more about them putting their hand up again and saying, I'm ready to go in 2 months' time and start pre-season again. That's going to be the biggest thing, because it's a massive commitment, and
the Oldhams and Rochdales, where majority players are living with 20 or 30 minutes of the club, is a lot easier than boys trekking from South London on the M25 at 5 o'clock on a Thursday night to get to training. So that's probably going to be the biggest thing. But from our point of view, yeah, we now we know what to expect, and we know sort of what players that have handled it this year and what players probably haven't, and we'll start signing those players as soon as we can, and hopefully all those boys are prepared to put pen to paper. So it's been a really good experience, and I've said it, we've achieved everything in regards to making the playoffs, playing Wakefield in a Challenge Cup game in front of 2,500, 3,000 people. The boys it's been a great experience for everyone, and it's funny that how do you top it? How do you top it? It's obviously finishing higher on the table is one thing, but replicating, drawing a Super League team in the Challenge Cup and everything else that's gone with it's going to be tough to replicate.
High praise from Troy Perkins for Mason Caden Brown and the contributions he's made to HEMEL this year, and of course a hat-trick in the win for over Hull Kingston Rovers at the weekend. Great to see Broncos finish off the front of the table. A lot of people will say, well, what is the importance? Really, does it matter? A small victory of Broncos not finishing on the bottom. Is that really something to celebrate? I think if you look at the people who argue that things aren't working in London, if you can turn around and say, well, every year that they've existed, there's always been a club that's been worse. It sounds a really petty argument to have. But it was such a big thing for me for the club not to finish on the foot of Super League. And, when people look through the record books, they don't look about who you won and what round you won them. They'll just see that the Broncos weren't bottom. And that, for me, was all important. So congratulations to the way they did it, the manner of the victory as well. And to have 9 academy products as well, it just goes to show the importance of keeping and maintaining the development of the youngsters in London. It is working, isn't it? And you don't need me to tell you that, I'm sure. But the signs are there, and that needs to continue. Now let's move on then and do a fair bit of Scholars stuff. I mentioned last week I'd do a special Scholars section for the podcast. It was looking like being a special Scholars programme, but news happened, didn't it, over the weekend? Ironically, while I was in the middle of a field at a festival. So it was all turned into an interesting weekend from my point of view in particular. But a few weeks ago, and I apologise for playing this out a couple of weeks late, but Leeds Rhinos JAMIE PEACOCK ran a summer camp in the capital, organised by the London Skolars at their North London training ground. What do you reckon, JP? Man of Steel this year? Well, his training camp over 2 days, attended by 50 youngsters in their summer holiday. Very well received as well. I did pop along to chat to JP and Ryan Hall of the Rhinos, who was also there. And like I said, this was done a few weeks ago, so my apologies to all involved that I'm only getting to air it now.
Well, Jamie, you've had one of your summer camps here. What have you made, lads, today?
Yeah,
lads and girls.
The lads have been fantastic, and the girls too. It's been really good to come down here. It shows that rugby's strong across London. We've got over 50 here, which I think is a great effort for the first time we've done it, and I'm sure it'll expand and be great again next year.
It's the first time that obviously you've brought your camp here. You feel it's important to sort of try and get your word out and sort of come and give your sort of summer camp to these guys? Yeah,
it is, because I don't think they get the chance to meet some of the guys who are probably more well known within the game, like myself and Ryan Hall. They don't get that exposure to those kind of players, and it can only help the game down here if they get to see the guys who've played for England and have been on to win grand finals and things like that. And people you see is not particularly myself, but others who are superstars of the game now.
And I'm told they were on pretty good behaviour, weren't they? All nice and polite today?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were fantastically polite and really well behaved. I think, because it's been a one-off for them and it's new to them, and it was great. It's really good when you've got kids who are really attentive and want to get on with things and polite. It's great.
Ryan, you're nodding along. You've seen what they've done today. How do they compare to sort of the kids that you've usually seen up in Leeds?
Yeah, it's great. We did the usual sort of thing. Like Jamie's camp has got a set structure, and we did that today, and they all got on with it brilliant. The talent of the guys who it's only young, but you can see that they're able to play rugby along the lines, and it's really good to see. I
know that I had a race with you. How did they do? Did you win?
Well, I tried. There's a couple of them had a bit of a head start on me, so it's hard to catch them up. But I think there's a video of it, so you might be able to get that online somewhere.
And in terms of the talent that you see in London, you know, Jamie's talked about. I've told Jamie before when he's been down. You know, there's another Southern school get through to the final of the Year 7 to sort of play at the beginning of the Challenge Cup this year. Is it good to see sort of London doing well? That's
great to see. Obviously, it's the capital of the country. It's where the majority of the people in the country are, and it's the more, you know, the game can grow down here, the better for our sport. You know, it's been like that for a while. You know, the sport has thought like that for a while, so it's only a matter of time before it really does kick off.
So I guess for players like you really want to see it sort of work down here. Broncos have had a tough time for a couple of years now, but I guess you sit there thinking, you know, if only they could be better, you know, things could be better for the whole sport.
Yeah, that's right. It's only, like I say, only a matter of time, and like they will get better. Like a lot of people are, you know, putting question marks over the club, but I think they should ignore that and get on with, you know, what's important and getting better.
So JAMIE Peacock, he looks like he'll be back next year. As I said, it was very well received, was his summer camp in the capital, by him, by the Skolars, and by the youngsters as well. And I think if there is potential and there is interest, it could well turn out to be a really big, popular thing for school-age children in the capital over the summer months, something for them to do. So yeah, it looks like it should, and it has the potential to go from strength to strength. And great to hear Jamie and Ryan as well, you know, bigging up the London involvement and the progression as well of the sport. So always nice to hear people like that, particularly if, you know, JP goes on to be Man of Steel. Well, you know, it's nice to hear them say those sort of things. And talking of running interviews far too late, again, my apologies for not using this interview sooner, but on that day that I caught up with JP and Ryan Hall, I spoke to Paul Thorman, the community manager, or I should say now the former community manager at London Skolars. His final day there was the Friday Night Lights game. He's moved on to pastures new now after 8 years at the London Skolars. He's been a great supporter of the sport and a great supporter of the Rugby League Down South programme, this programme, and of course in its previous guise on BBC London 94.9. Well, I thought I'd have a chat with him before he disappeared, so we caught up after the JP summer camp, and after JP's summer camp, I should say, to get his thoughts on his time at Skolars, and in particular the summer camp which he'd just run.
If the feedback from the kids and more so the parents, to be honest, I'm sure they're glad of a couple of days respite in the summer holidays, and you know, to provide a couple of days of high quality rugby league coaching for over 50 kids in the region is one thing, but to be able to get, you know, 2 world class rugby league players to share some precious time, certainly at this time of year, you know, when they should be concentrating on some very important games upcoming, is great. And for them to take, you know, a day out of their schedule to come down to London and share their wisdom and expertise with a group of kids and coaches, I guess, as well, in us, has been really, really good.
You usually do some sort of summer camp, or, you know, you've had summer camps before at the club. How did it all come about that sort of JAMIE Peacock was going to put his stamp on it and do his particular programme?
It would have been about 6 months ago now. The club were aware. Our club were aware that Jamie did his own camps. You know, obviously we do our own camps in the summer. We got in touch with him and kind of tested the water. And it was something that he embraced immediately. You know, he thought it was a great idea. He does, you know, camps where you'd think he did camps in, you know, Stanningley and East Leeds and, you know, up north and West Yorkshire certainly. And to do one in London he's probably taken a punt on it first of all, but he couldn't be happier with it. I don't think he's just getting some feedback from him there. He's, you know, we were already talking about putting something in the diary for next summer, which is, I suppose that's endorsement enough from him, isn't it? So no, he's absolutely chuffed to bits with the outcome.
And you mentioned over 50 kids have come down as well, but I guess the most promising part is, well, one, the future potential with these kids having such a great time, but the fact that they come from so wide and afar, that if they go back and tell their clubs, I mean, this could be a really big thing, couldn't it, next year with the little shoots that you've put in there this year?
Sure, I think so. You know, as you said, the jerseys in particular on day one were, it was great. You know, we had familiar jerseys such as, you know, obviously you've got the Broncos and Skolars, HEMEL, lots of HEMEL jerseys as well, but, you know, people from Sussex Merlins, Brentwood Elvers, Southend Spartans. We had a few Southend lads come along, which is great, you know, and more than, I suppose, creating future rugby league stars. It was about making people into rugby league fans, I think, first and foremost. And I genuinely think that we've done that. Just the experience that they've had playing British Bulldog with JAMIE PEACOCK and Ryan Hall, and having a foot race with Ryan Hall, and these are things that kids will, they'll take forwards, and they'll see the guys on TV and probably tell their mates that they've had a foot race with him, and that's what it's all about. It's about generating the next batch of rugby league fans.
And you've just told me as well that you're going to be leaving the club in the next few weeks to explore a new venture for you personally. I mean, you've been at this club for, 7 or so years now. You've seen the club come a long way, really. I mean, you've been involved in the game here in that time, in the same amount of time that I've really been covering the sport here. It seems to have come on such a long way, and I guess, does this show really how far Skolars have come now that these summer camps now have the endorsement of JAMIE PEACOCK, the position of the club now going into playoffs? Yeah. It's really established yourself. I mean, you are leaving the club. I'm not saying it's all down to you as such. No disrespect, but the club are in a great state.
They are. You're right. And I've just been saying to Rich, one of the other coaches that was on the camp, that to do something like this in one of your last weeks at the club is, it tells you all you need to know about your previous 7 years. The club's absolutely unrecognisable from when I first came. We've had some peaks, we've had some troughs as well. As you said, the club's cemented that place in the playoffs. We've just hosted loads of kids on a JAMIE PEACOCK camp, and we've got a lad downstairs, ILLIES MACANI, who's popped along to say hello. That's just made his Super League debut at the weekend, scoring in the process. So I suppose those three little things kind of speak volumes about, it's just nice. It just seems to have culminated very nicely, and seems a very natural time to perhaps move on and let the club progress, and perhaps somebody with lots of energy to give to the role. But of course I'll still be around. The Skolars is my club, and it will always be my club. I've been here far longer than any other club that I've spent time at, and it'll always hold a place dear, in my heart. And as I said, I'll be around the place anyway.
Well, best wishes to Paul Thorman in his future role, staying within sport, but not at Skolars. I'm sure we'll see him back as well. And as he says, he'll always be a Scholar. It will always be his club. And what a great servant not only he has been to London Rugby League, but his brother as well, Neil Thorman, now playing at Whitehaven. But best wishes to Paul Thorman. And again, apologies for playing that out a little bit too late. And funny as it happens as well, on the way out of the clubhouse, when I was at the Skolars that day, pop head into Joe Mabu's office. Who sat there? ILLIES MACANI. At the weekend, he'd just made his debut, a try-scoring debut as well, for the London Broncos, having come to the Skolars a few years ago, progressed through. Kind of sounds like a Joe Mabu sort of story, doesn't it? Starting at the Skolars, going to Broncos. Well, he was back at Skolars, just for a chat, really, with Joe Mabu. I thought while I was there, and while he was there, it would be rude not to talk to him, wouldn't he? So here is, from a few weeks ago, ILLIES MACANI, a man who, of course, starred again in the victory for the side over Hull Kingston Rovers at the weekend.
We're back here at Skolars now. You just popped in to say hi, but I guess for you this is sort of where it all started, isn't it?
Yeah, just home of where the dreams began, really. Just came here as a junior and just worked my way up from here, really.
So when did you start with the Skolars then?
I started when I was 15, came over, had a school game at the ground, and they offered me to come down and train with the academy boys, the younger boys.
Do you remember that first game?
Yeah, it was a good game. I think I scored 3 tries first game. Yeah, it was pretty good.
So you had a couple of years with the Skolars then, did you, or a year with Joe, and then sort of went on trial at the Broncos? Did they invite you down? Did you go down there?
Yeah, I had a year with Skolars first team, training, getting used to handling bigger guys, and then I saw a trial open on their website, and I thought I'd go down, and I got in, and I just went from there, really.
And how's it been with them? I guess it's such a different level, isn't it? Championship 1 and Super League. I mean, you got your Super League debut at the weekend. What was that like? Yeah,
it was amazing. Just playing against guys that I've always looked up to, like the likes of Melly and Manu and stuff. It's just a big jump. Like, speed of the game's a whole lot different, players' skill levels and their understanding of the game. But it was just great to be around those players and just learning off them.
And how was Tony Ray with you around that game before and afterwards? I mean, was it positive, the stuff that he was telling you?
Yeah, it was really positive. All the players got around me and just told me that just take it as any other game and just do what I do. Because I've done really well this year, and they've told me to keep pushing and keep working hard, and I'll just get through the game.
Again, it wasn't quite the result that the Broncos might have wanted. I mean, from sort of being on the periphery of that squad, how have you sort of seen them this year? Because it's been a bit tough year for them, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a tough year, but everybody's trying to work hard and trying to get the results out that we need. It's just team effort. We just need to keep together and keep trying to grind out the results for the last couple of games.
And I guess it's a team that you want to stay in, have a few more games in?
Yeah, it's definitely love to stay at London. Where my home is, where I'd love to be, and where I'd like to stay for the rest of my career if I can.
Do you think? I mean, people have talked about the Broncos and the future of the sport and sort of how the Broncos inspire young lads to carry on playing and to go through. I mean, do you think if the Broncos weren't there, I'm not saying you wouldn't have gone on to play for them because they wouldn't have been there in the first place, but if they weren't there, do you think you'd have sort of taken your career as far as you would if you had to go elsewhere, like to the north or anything like that?
I doubt it. I think it's down to London where I've got and where I'd like to progress, and they've got a huge amount of young players coming up, and if it wasn't for London, I doubt I'd have played Super League. Really, they've given me the opportunity to try and make a career and do something with my life, really, and I owe it all to London, really.
You got a try as well in the game. Tell us about that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was just a little lucky try. Just Jamie Soward put a little chip through, and I just followed on, and I just picked up and put it down. Really, just really lucky try.
How did it feel though when you touched that down? That's why you're there, isn't it? You're there to help the team win, and to do your bit like that and score a try must have been great. Yeah,
it was an amazing feeling, but I had Willie Manny just give me a dig with his knees in the ribs, so a bit sore, but it was totally worth it.
And how are you feeling now? Not necessarily physically, but about your future. I mean, the reaction from the Broncos, was positive. So, where do you go from here? What's your next step?
I'd like to just keep working, staying hard, trying to push for the first team and try and get a regular spot. I know amongst players that will help me learn and get better, and with a great coach such as Tony and great staff in behind, I can push on and try and become a regular at London Broncos, really.
What's it been like coming back to Skolars as well? Bit of a local celebrity now. I know you came back. They all sort of, here he is, Super League star.
Yeah, just giving me a bit of grief every now and then, but it's just a great place to come back to, just to see where I've come from, and just humbling just to come back and see the players that I've trained with and worked with, and just see the young lot coming through as well. It's really promising.
And you've sat with Joe as well and had a good chat with him. I guess you sort of value his comments and value his feedback quite highly, the fact that you've come back to see him. Yeah,
most definitely. He's the one that founded me really and started me up from a young player, moved me from the wing to fullback and centre, and he's helped me develop as a player, and always there, words of encouragement, giving me texts before games and stuff, just to encourage me and keep my head screwed on, really.
What's he said to you today?
Yeah, he just told me I've done really well in my debut, and just wants me to keep working hard and keep grinding it out, really.
A nice lad, ILLIES MACANI there. Hopefully a big future ahead of him too. Now, as we progress towards the end of this week's Rugby League Down South, bring you a story that I've been meaning to do for such a long time. Back in August, RGS High Wycombe winning the Year 7 Grand Final of the Champion Schools at Wembley. We know the story. We know what happened. I've been trying to catch up with their PE teacher, Liam Doubler. For weeks we've been playing telephone tennis. I eventually managed to connect with him and have a chat with him, his history, the school's involvement in rugby league, and their future as well. So the victorious coach of the RGS High Wycombe Year 7 lads in that Champion Schools final at Wembley. This is Liam Doubler, or as the students will no doubt know him as Mr. Doubler.
It was fantastic, really, really good, and a lot of staff came down to Wembley, the headmaster and a lot of sports staff and the wider staff, lots of parents and lots of older boys as well. So there's loads of RGS supporters there, which was really, really good. It was a real school occasion. And so first assembly back, the boys were awarded the cup and their medals in junior and senior assembly, which was really nice, and just to acknowledge their achievements, which is a national title doesn't come along very often. So it's really, really nice for them to get recognition in front of all of the school and the staff.
Absolutely,
really nice
Absolutely, and it's good to see that there were so many people there supporting as well. I walked into Wembley just as you scored the opening try of the game, and it was a bit one way then the other in the first half. Pouring rain as well, not great conditions, was it?
No.
But then second half, your team, I've got to say, much the stronger side, much the better side, and well worthy winners.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was like we couldn't believe the conditions. The beautiful pitch, Wembley, and it was absolutely torrential rain. But the boys were just absolutely superb, and we talked about just keeping it tight and just kind of scooting from the play the ball area and not trying to push it too wide in those conditions. And they did exactly what we asked and what we discussed. And it was quite a tight game. And to be fair, Castleford had a few good players, and they played very well in that first half. We made a few mistakes, and were defending for quite a long period, but we kind of held them out. I think they scored shortly after we did, and then we scored just before half time, and then again, and then going into half time, we thought, right, let's try and think about it now. The boys got used to the conditions a little bit more. Let's try and move a bit wider, try and use the space, because it's a lovely big pitch, and we've got quite a few good athletes, and we just tried to let the ball do the work then a little bit more rather than trucking it up, as it were. So and it worked to our advantage. And the boys, like I said, that both sides, the handling was fantastic for boys under 12 age group. The core skills on show from both teams were really, really good, really high level, and it was a pleasure to watch. Really, pleasure to watch.
I just want to mention a couple of your players as well. You're going to have to forgive me because I've forgotten their names now. But the guy that got man of the match, I think he was number 13. He was terrific. He's a big lad, and at that age, it does make a difference. But you've also got quite a big winger as well, who enjoyed a few scorching runs. Yeah,
well, Evan Morris is the captain. He played loose forward for us, number 13, and he won the man of the match. He had a fantastic performance in defence and obviously in attack, scoring 4 tries. Really led from the front. And then you've got Roshan Russell, who's pretty new to rugby. I think he just started playing rugby with us when he came to school with us. But he is a good athlete, and he's just really come on leaps and bounds. The rugby league and the union season, especially the rugby league season, has really helped see him develop now. And then he's, the confidence that he's showing, and to score, he scored basically an earlier try-line score at Wembley was really impressive, and that's just given him huge confidence, which he'll take now into the rugby union season in Year 8, which is fantastic. It's just to see those boys, all of them as a group, just really develop. I think the crucial game for us was the quarter-final up in Halifax, and we had a really, really tough game up there, away from home. It's interesting to see how the boys respond with the journey and everything, and they just really cope well. Evan scored a great try just to win it at the end, it was really good. And we just from then we seemed to just kick on and just get better and better, which was really nice.
Do you know what I really like about what you just said, Liam, is the fact that, you're a rugby union school, you've picked up playing rugby league, which is great, and I've talked about the expansion, the development of the game, and, its increasing popularity in the south, and it's great how your lads are going to go back and play rugby union now, play their rugby union season, but the fact is, they're playing rugby league over the summer, and the more people that do that, the better it is going to be for the sport.
Well, definitely, and, the thinking behind it, I played a little bit, and I'm director of sport. When I came 6 years ago, I initially entered the Year 9 boys as preparation for the boys for the following year in Year 10 for the Daily Mail Schools Cup, as it once was called. And in 2011, in 2010, the Year 9s I took, we won the regional final at the Stoop. And a year later, we won the Daily Mail Schools Cup final at Twickenham, just over the road, which is pretty good. And that, I do believe that playing that league and getting involved and going through the national stages really helped those boys, and again gave them confidence in their skills, and they really took that into their rugby union season the following year. So, I think you can learn a lot from from both codes, obviously, but the handling and the core skills are the same. Essentially, in regards to catching, receiving, and passing, and kicking, and running with the ball, and defence. It's really important. So it's really good for their rugby development, no matter what they go on to play, for them to experience both codes, I think.
Do you know, that's what I really like as well. You talk about those transferable skills, and the fact is, they're a new breed almost of rugby player in that, traditionally, the north-south divide and all that. I think I'm right in saying that, the listeners to this programme they don't have that chip on their shoulder, as to speak. It's tough selling rugby league in a rugby union area, but the more kids that are brought up playing both gives them the option. They can watch either, they can play either, they can play neither, they can do whatever they want. But the fact is that education is there and they know about it, and there isn't this, it's only in the north, only in the south, etc.
Exactly. No, I think, look, rugby league's a fantastic game. Rugby union, and we are a rugby union school. We put out 18 to 19 teams every Saturday.
Wow.
for a state boys grammar school, which is unbelievable, really, and we play on the top circuit. So our first few fixtures this year were well into college last Saturday, Millfield this weekend, then Harrow, then John Fisher. It's very tough. It's a tough fixture list.
Yeah.
It's second to none, really, and so our boys are getting lots of good experience there. But again, like you said, it's just nice to try something different, especially lower down the school in year 7. For boys to get the experience in playing lots of different sports. It's just invaluable, really. It's an experience I'll never forget. They're very proud. They've had a great time. But now they're looking to build this year and next year and for things to come. So yeah, it's really good. It's really exciting. It's really good. So very pleased.
Absolutely, and with the success that you had and the success that the Year 9 girls had at the Lee Academy as well, winning their national final, I wrote a blog basically saying that it's great because you've now got 2 southern schools who could basically say to some young lads, young girls, do you know what, if we do well in this competition, you're going to get to play at Wembley. And if you were to say that to some of your football team, they've got to be good. They've got to go through so many hoops, in order to play at Wembley. This is a great opportunity, regardless of sort of how it goes or what they do, or, like you say, where they go in the future. This is an opportunity to get them playing at Wembley, something that will get them excited about the sport, and that opportunity for schools like yourself must be brilliant.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? I think I've said to a few people as adults, myself and my colleague Dave Durnin, we both did the team. We went up to the box after the game, and Brian Noble's there. All the great and good of rugby league are there, and we're like, wow. And the boys, I don't think the boys really realised who they were.
No, yeah,
it was interesting.
That's nice. I like that.
They just literally, I don't know. It's funny, they just were so composed. I think as adults you feel, oh God, this is a huge occasion. It is a big occasion, but the boys just really managed themselves, and I think that is a big factor as well. How you manage yourself, be prior, during, and after the game. So the boys were a credit to the school. I was really impressed with them. For boys so young as well.
And you mentioned as well that you've obviously played. You played a couple of seasons at HEMEL. You're still in touch with Bob Brown, Mr. HEMEL, I think is his official job title. But are you going to carry on rugby league in the school? You said the headmaster was there. He had enjoyed a good day out at Wembley, hopefully, and hopefully he's fully behind it.
Well, definitely, he's fantastic, and we'll never change from we are a rugby union school, but it's nice. Nice to enter it, and we are going to enter again in year 7. We only entered 1 year age group because of the other commitments we've got. It's really exciting again, and it's a nice opportunity for our current year 7s who are training hard on Saturdays at the moment, and they'll play their first rugby union match against Warwick School early October, and then something to look forward to for those guys in November when we start our new campaign with the rugby league as well. So yeah, it's really, really good, really good.
Do you know, there's such nice people operating in Southern Rugby League. It is often a privilege to cover it. Thanks to Mr. Doubler, Liam Doubler, for talking to me. A great story as well, and it really is good. It really makes you feel good about the sport and the progression and the direction which it's going when you talk to people like Liam. Best of luck for their year 7s as well in this season's competition as it is now with schools going back. He also mentioned, did Liam, that he was sent a letter, a guy who now lives in Hull, He's a southerner who's been living in Hull for about 25 years, and he'd written to the school and included a load of clippings from the paper and the League Express about the fantastic result, as he called it, of the RGS High Wycombe lads. Very proud to see, and I thought it was just a nice touch. Somebody in Hull saw the game, took the clippings, and sent them down to Liam, who actually has just got his hands on the DVD and was watching it. Was rather impressed by how his side did. But nice little stories like that I can bring you here on Rugby League Down South. That's it for them for this week. A bit of a Ram Jam programme, and we'll try and bring you as much concrete news on the London Broncos as soon as we can. Keep your eye on the BBC Sport website. But that's it for this week. We are doing the podcast potentially very soon. I want to try and wait until Broncos news has been announced so we can discuss what the future will be rather than speculate of the future. But that will be the next programme, the podcast, where I get a few fans together. If you do want to be involved, email rldownsouth@gmail.com. rldownsouth@gmail.com. You can send me a mention on Twitter as well if you fancy, at Ian Ramsdale, or use the hashtag RLDS. Your thoughts and comments are always appreciated. If you fancy coming to the podcast, let me know, and hopefully this programme may well take us close to, if not over, 10,000 downloads and listens for 2013. Not a bad start to the year. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading once again. Thank you for getting this far. And we'll be back with a podcast next.